So this is me when I had just started out. I'm thinking of ways to increase my cash flow. So just for those that are not in property or don't know what rent to rent is, basically you rent out a property under a commercial lease agreement for a much longer period of time, say 5 years, and then rent it out to private tenants under a normal AST tenancy agreement. Because it's a commercial lease, in the sense your company is the party to the lease rather than your individual self, and when you work with the right person, it's a win-win for both parties. Property owners guaranteed rent for the 5 years, basically no voids in the period, no cost of property management or agents, and depending on your negotiations, likely no minor repairs to the property for the duration of the period. As a landlord, you're only dealing with one person, the company. For the company, you're basically controlling someone's property and renting it out at a premium, and you get the cut in between. So sometimes it can be so difficult to get this type of agreements, and it's for many reasons. Some think it's subletting, which is illegal, by the way. Some have been burnt before and had companies just bail on them or dissolve. Or as the commercial tenant, they've had this cash flow machine just get taken away from them, e.g. if someone passes away without any provision to the contract. Anyway, I'm struggling to find landlords who know what this is, and let alone are open to it. Finally got this guy who was pretty keen. He had 6 beds, so I was going to rent it from him, then rent it out as 6 separate rooms. That right there made me walk into my first mistake, because I was so tired of looking and having multiple fruitless conversations. I was just ready to take anything at this point. So I go view the property. It looked okay, nothing over the top. I knew I could do light work on it, so was happy to work with it. Now, I did not do any due diligence on this guy. Who does that? I should have done a better job at researching the company. Property was owned by his company. Okay, so I'm so excited at this point. I leave the property straight face and all, and I tell him I'll give you a ring and let you know if I'm interested, as if I didn't know already. Got to my car, pulled out my analyzer and ran the numbers I wanted to offer and what I expected to get from the property based on what I had just seen. So I was going to make lots of easy cash. Second mistake, called him from the car, offered what I wanted, he accepted. In hindsight, that is not how you offer on deals. If I knew then what I know now. Anyway, so he quickly accepted. He was going to charge me 3.7 per month for the full property. So you pay 3 months upfront deposit plus 1 month's rent. Okay, I'm 15k in at this point, but okay, fine. I had already spoken to agents that I was going to get to manage the tenants for me. So what I expected to rent it out for was validated by them. Great. So mind you, this property was advertised as a fully licensed HMO. Cool. He sent over the contract without the license. I wanted to use my own contract, had a few templates, but for some reason said, okay, we can tweak yours. So went through it, asked them to add a 6-month break clause in case it didn't work out, a couple of other touch points on responsibilities, etc. So he says he'll send over the license the next day. Okay, cool. Signed. Next day, I went again to the property. I had the keys now. I had bought a couple of things as well. So I get a couple more agents to come see the place so I can get the best code for management. The one starts pointing out everything that needed to be documented, like HMO style, fire rigs, whatever. He's like, but there's this and that and that. How did you even get the license approved? Shit, the license. This is the next day. I'm chasing this guy for the license. He says it's coming. I'm like, look, I can't rent it out if it's not with me, and the contract becomes void, right? Because you misrepresented this thing as already licensed. It's coming, Diana. Stop stressing. Shock face. Why didn't I check on the local council website to see if it was licensed? So red flag, and I'm just about done, and it's only been a day. 1 day, 2 days, 1 week. No license. So I got a solicitor. Funny story of how I met her. Her contact was sent to me by mistake by another investor I had met at a networking event. He even tried to recall the email, but I had already seen it and just kept the details. Anyway, so she specializes in HMO contracts, so I asked her to look at the contract. She goes, shit, Diana, what have you done? So many loopholes with how he structured his contract. A lot to my advantage, but looked like he had left out specific clauses too. So I wanted to die at this point. Then we started with a legal negotiation. He kept lying, this guy. He would still pick up his phone, but was so full of it. So decided to take him to court. Of course, I started incurring legal costs at this point. And in the claim, he would cover all of this. But for now, it's coming out of my pocket. Courts. 3 months later, they respond asking for evidence. Anyway, I'm still running my business and choosing not to think of how stupid I was and had a good chance of having to write this amount off. Anyway, back and forth with the court, so you also get to see his defense. Turns out he had applied and he hadn't even received an acknowledgement of the license application. So basically he didn't have a license at the time when I signed this agreement. Then my lawyer calls me one day. She's like, "You're not going to believe this. I can't give you details, but I've just had a client come in to me with a case suing your same guy